Hey guys, so today we're going to be talking about some new Guerlain stuff. I picked up two things from their new Terracotta Brazilian Beach or the Brazilian Summer 2020 collection. So I did get the bronzer that comes in their limited edition wood packaging. I also did pick up their Brazilian Summer Meteorites that comes in this gorgeous fun packaging. I absolutely love it. And then part of their Meteorites line, they did come out with a new liquid highlighter. It's infused with pearl extract, and I think there's a few colors. I went ahead and purchased the 02 Pearly Gold, and it's one of those pen highlighters with like a sponge tip applicator. So we'll be applying that as well. So on top of applying it, we'll also be doing some comparison swatches of the Terracotta bronzer. I have two previous limited edition terracotta bronzers that I will compare to in case you have them and if you're curious. I also do have some of the terracotta bronzers, the new one that just came out. I have the one with like the spokes in it, and then I also have this face palette so we can go ahead and compare all of the bronzers in there. So we'll do some comparison swatches of that, and then we'll try and compare the meteorites. It's always really difficult to compare powders that, you know, don't have a lot of pigment or whatever, but I will show you at least the difference in appearance of the pearls in here to the other meteorites I have, just so you can see if it's different or not, because this is definitely different from the meteorites in the regular line. I was not sure if this was going to be, you know, just like new packaging or whatever, but it was like basically like the light Claire or something like that. But these are definitely different. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I have my makeup on to the point where I would like to apply some bronzer. So let's go ahead and play with this new Terracotta Brazilian Beach bronzer and blush powder. So as I understand it, Guerlain chooses like a different wood to feature in this limited edition packaging that they do every summer. I don't know what this wood is, but it's actually like kind of peachy, which is so interesting. I believe, I'm really losing track of time. So these are the other two that I have. I think this was last year's, this lighter colored wood versus this warmer colored wood. I think this was last year's, but just to compare, this year's has like a little bit of like a peachy tone to the wood. It's really pretty. It is a magnetic closure, and here is the design on the inside. So these bronzer blush powders that come out in this wood packaging, there's always this integrated bronzer and blush, and then there's always this gold overspray. The gold overspray will last maybe, you know, like 5 uses, and then after that it's going to be completely gone. So we'll definitely get some gold in today's use. So with this design in the pan, I think it is relatively easy to just get the bronzer, to just get the blush. You can kind of run your brush around this box, and then of course you can just brush it across the whole thing to get both products. So I did swatches of all three. So this is the bronzer, this is the blush, and then this is kind of a combo of both, basically swatched like this to get this shade up here. It's very blush heavy, so we'll have to see what happens, but I would like to try to use them separately and then maybe use them together on the other cheek. So I'm going to use my Sonia G Master Face Brush, and I'm going to go right into the center here to just try and get some of the bronzer. I do feel like I'm getting some of the blush, but I'm going to focus it on the bronzer. And I'm just going to brush it under my cheekbones here. I don't know if you guys can see, but I definitely picked up some of the blush. I feel like this is a very rosy, rosy toned bronzer. So I'm going to try and pinch my brush a little bit and just really focus on the bronzer. I don't think this is something I'm going to want to do on a regular basis, but I do just want to get a better sense of this bronzer all by itself. I'm going to go in on this side. Well, it's such a peachy toned bronzer. I almost feel like it doesn't even matter if I have a little bit of the blush in there. I feel like it has like a brightness to it, like a peachiness. This side, of course, has like a little bit of the pinkiness of the blush, but it's very pretty. And I think if you just wanted to use it all over your cheeks, it could double as like a bronzer and a blush, like you would be killing 2 birds with 1 stone. So I've pretty much gotten rid of all of the gold overspray on that center part. So I'm just going to go in again with this Master Face brush, and I'm going to kind of brush it all over. Also, what I'm noticing is I feel like the blush powder is a little bit softer than the bronzer powder. I feel like I see a lot more blush kick up than I do bronzer. So I do feel like I'm picking up a lot more blush than I am bronzer, even though I'm kind of swirling it over the entire pan. Oops, that is really, really just blush heavy. Let me buff that out a lot. So I think if you're just gonna, grab your brush and just sort of brush it all over the entire pan, you're gonna pick up a lot more of the blush like I just did, and it's really just gonna end up like a blush. And I think if you really want the bronzer, you're really gonna have to just focus it right in the center here, and then you'll be good to go. So let me just even this out a little bit. So this does have the terracotta scent. It smells like suntan lotion to me, basically. It just smells like the beach to me. I don't mind the terracotta scent, but I know a lot of people do not like this. So just an FYI. All right, so all in all, I would say I would use this as a blush for sure. I think it's a little bit too fussy, at least for me, just to focus it on the center, just to get the bronzer. And the bronzer itself is fairly peachy. I think you could use the bronzer itself just as a blush. But if you brush your brush over the entire pan, I think it's gonna work much better as a blush. The shade really is so, so pretty. It really is very summery. It looks like that I have a little bit of like peach over like a suntan. All right, first let me show you some comparison swatches between this year's terracotta bronzer, and the 2 years previous. All right, so all the way on the left, the first 3 swatches are of the newest terracotta blush and bronzer. So I have the bronzer, the blush, and then a combo of the two. Next, I have the blush and bronzer duo with the paisley imprint in the lighter wood packaging. I think this is from last year. So again, I have the bronzer, the blush, and then a mixture of the two. And then finally on the right, I have the one with the compass imprint in the darker packaging. And I have the bronzer, the blush, and then a combo of the two. So in looking at the 2 years previous, I think the blushes are much peachier than this year's. This year's it's a lot more pink, but I do feel like the actual bronzer shades are very, very similar. And personally, I like this year's duo the most because when you combine the bronzer with something a little pinkier, I think you get a really nice natural kind of flush for the cheeks, where in the previous years, because the blush was so peach, when you combined everything, I felt like you got a shade that almost had like a yellow undertone, and it wasn't as complimentary as this year's. And then next, let's go ahead and compare it to, just some of the other terracotta bronzers that I have. So again, I just left those first 3 swatches of this year's bronzer blush duo. So that's what the first 3 swatches are. That has not changed. The next swatch is of this bronzer from GUERLAIN. So this is the Terracotta Light, and this is in shade 01 Light Warm. So because the spokes are so narrow, it really is nearly impossible to just sort of isolate any one of these shades. So my swatch is really just of the entire pan. And then the next 2 shades are from the Terracotta Contour and Glow palette. So I swatched the deeper bronzer here, and then the lighter one. And then finally, I swatched the new Terracotta Matte in Clair Light. So that's the last swatch all the way over on the right. So I feel like the depth of tone in this newest bronzer is very similar to the new Terracotta Matte shade, which is the one all the way at the end. And I think it's also similar to the deepest one in the Terracotta Face palette, where it had the 2 bronzers in there. But I do feel like the bronzer in the new Terracotta wooden packaging, the duo, I do think that one's just a bit warmer than the other 2. All right, that is the Terracotta Bronzer and Blush Duo. I think it's just such a really pretty flush, and I feel like if I can combine bronzer and blush in one step, I'm all for it. All right, let's move on to this highlighting pen. So here is the outer box packaging. It's just, kind of typical Meteorites looking packaging. It is called Liquid Highlighter Infused with Pearl Extract, and I got it in the shade 02 Pearly Gold. I think there's either 2 or 3 shades. So anyway, I decided to go for this one. So here is the pen packaging. It's one of those where you clicky twist, and it has the sponge tip applicator. So let me start twisting this because we know how long it takes. Oh, there we go. Some has just come out of the applicator. So I'm gonna swatch this first. So there it is. That's pretty. That is really, really pretty. Wow, Guerlain is really coming out with some nice highlighters. You guys know I love that palette that they just came out with the 3 different shades. That one is gorgeous. This is really, really stunning too. I think what I'm gonna do is just apply a bunch to the back of my hand and then apply it from the back of my hand to my cheek. Since I have makeup down, I don't wanna dirty the sponge tip applicator more than I have to. So I'm just gonna turn a bunch of product out. So I've quite a bit. That's probably way too much. And then I'm gonna grab my new Tina Earnshaw brush. I just hauled this up for you guys. This is like a flat sable hair brush, and I've been using it quite a bit, and I have fallen in love, I have to say. So I'm just gonna go ahead and dip it into the highlight here and just pat that. Ooh, wow. Pat that on. I'm probably going to need a fluffier brush to blend that in. But I'm just going to lay it down with this brush. Ooh, 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 ooh. God. Then I'm grabbing my Smashbox cream cheek brush, and I'm just going to kind of dab it over and blend it in. Ooh. My goodness. So I don't think it sets down completely, but there is a setting down factor for sure. So I would maybe do one cheek at a time. That is really, really intense. So for my eye look, I thought it would be fun to try the bronzer blush duo. So I've got my Isom S33 brush. I'm gonna go into the bronzer first. Yeah, I'm gonna go into the bronzer first. And, well, just pretty much apply that everywhere. It looks pretty peachy on my lids, even though I'm just really focusing it right in the center here. Ooh, I think that looks nice. Sometimes bronzers don't always look so great on my eyelids. Sometimes it ends up looking a little muddy. I really like using blushes. So this like really warm toned, kind of like rosy color is really, really nice. Okay, what I do want to try is the Guerlain highlighting palette on my eyes also. So I'm going to use this peach color here. I'm just going to go in with the same S33 brush and use this kind of on the inner portion of my lid. Oh, wow, that works really well together. Ooh. Okay, I just got really excited. All right, I think that looks really pretty. Let me take like a little teeny tiny brush, like this mini booster. I'm gonna go into this lightest highlight shade and just focus that right in the inner corner here. All right, I really like that. I love that combo of the bronzer and the highlighter on my eyes. That looks really nice, and it's totally tied in with the whole cheek look. How exciting. All right, so I'm gonna finish up my face. I'm gonna do, you know, my eyebrows, eyeliner, mascara, some lips, and then we will come back and use the Meteorites as a finishing product, and then also take a look at it in comparison to the other Meteorites I have, of which I have a lot. All right, so I finished up my eye makeup, and I thought I would put the lip product on with you because this is one of the newer Guerlain products. So I purchased one of their newer cases. Isn't that amazing? It's like this black like rhinestone. Oh my God, it's so much fun. And then they came out with some new sheer lip colors. So this is the sheer nude, I believe. It's color number 007. It actually doesn't have a name, but it's 007. I'm pretty sure it's sheer nude. So let's go ahead and apply this. Such a pretty color. It definitely has a little bit more of like a pinky base. I probably would have gone with something a little bit peachier maybe, but I think that's fine. I think that looks okay. So let's move on to the Meteorites. Here is this year's packaging. Isn't that so much fun? And because I ordered these from Selfridges, these came a long way. And so the Meteorites, which is totally fine because you need to kind of break them up a little bit to get the powder, but it came like really powdery, really, really powdery and broken up already. Again, it's totally fine by me, but I just want to let you know. A lot of people ask me whether or not mine came completely crushed, and Definitely not completely crushed. I still have pearls in there. But when I first opened it, it was quite powdery. So I'm gonna go ahead and use my favorite finishing brush, which is the Sonia G Face One brush. I'm gonna go in and just kind of swirl it over. Oh, you can actually see all the powder kind of coming out. And I'm just gonna stamp it. And then I'm gonna buff. So there it is, buffed onto my cheek area. And there it is without. I just feel like this side looks a lot more airbrushed. My whole like bronzer blush situation looks a little bit more softened, which is nice because I went in pretty heavy. So again, without. All right, I'm just gonna finish applying this to the rest of my face, and then we'll go ahead and compare this one to some of the other ones that I have. All right, so since swatching like face powder it's just almost imperceptible through a video lens, what I'm gonna do is just do overhead shots of this new Meteorites next to some ones that I have part of their existing line, etc. And you'll be able to see the difference in the shades, and I'll kind of talk you through what my observations are. So first, here it is next to the Meteorites in Clear Light. So again, this is part of their regular line. I happen to have it in the limited edition Lunar New Year packaging, but this is just their Clear Light Meteorites. So you can see in the Clear Light, we have pearls that are like white and a light pale yellow. So I think it's gonna make the light Meteorites lighter than the newer Brazilian summer version. And then next here it is beside the medium Meteorites. Again, this is part of their regular Meteorites line. And the medium one, I wouldn't say is much deeper than the light, but it is warmer. So I do find that the medium is going to be a little bit lighter than the Brazilian, but it is a little bit warmer because it does have more gold and yellow pearls in there versus those like turquoise blue colored pearls. And then here it is next to Doré, which is the deepest Meteorites we have in their regular line. And this one has like some deeper brown pearls in there, which is going to make it warmer and deeper than the new Brazilian summer version. And then next here is the one that had like the paisley tin, and I believe this came out last summer with that wooden compact that had the paisley design in there. This one definitely came out more of like a blush for me versus like a finishing powder. When I used the paisley one as like a finishing powder, I definitely got a very kind of rosy tinge to my skin. So the paisley one definitely is a lot rosier than the Brazilian one, which I think works better as kind of like a finishing powder. I don't think it has quite as much pigment as the paisley one. And then here it is next to the Rainbow Pearls version. The Rainbow Pearls version is a very, very cool tone, almost comes off almost kind of like white on my skin tone, so it's actually not the best for my skin. So I think the Brazilian version, this year's version, is a lot friendlier towards my skin tone. It has those larger peachy pearls, which I think make it a little bit friendlier for me. And then I have a bunch of the holiday Meteorites. So this is the golden pearl one. I mean, you can see it's quite different. A lot of these holiday Meteorites I use more as highlighter versus a finishing powder. There's a lot more shimmer. You can see this one is a lot more gold. And then next is Electric Pearl. And I feel like this is like the holiday golden shimmery version of the paisley one because it has those copper pearls in there, and it gives my skin like, there's like a little bit more pigment in there. I wouldn't say it's a blush, but in terms of using it as a finishing powder, it has a little bit more pigment in there than I like. But you can see how different it is from the Brazilian version. And then finally, I have it next to Golden Land, and this one is by far the deepest. This definitely can be used as like a blush topper. It has those like ruby red pearls in there, which give these Meteorites like a little bit more drama, but you can see how different these are from the Brazilian ones. All right, so those are all of my Meteorites put side by side next to this year's Brazilian Summer Club. And just to give you some final thoughts on these new products, this bronzer blush duo, I definitely feel more comfortable using as a blush. I don't think this is something I would use kind of, you know, dusted all over my face. I think it has a little bit too much of that peach going on. And I think it's also very, very difficult to pick up just the bronzer in there. So I really liked using this just on my cheeks. But again, I don't think I would use it as like an all over bronze. I would definitely use like their newer matte sculpting powder, the one that I have in Clear Light. This one I love dusting all over my face. It's really great just to kind of warm up your entire complexion. And then as for the new Meteorites, I love them. I love Meteorites. I love using them as finishing powder, as you guys saw, as I demoed. I just love buffing it in. It just does such a wonderful job kind of smoothing everything, making everything look airbrushed. It does have the Meteorites violet scent, which I personally really love. And if you do buff it out really, really nicely with a brush like this Sonia G Face One brush, there are like little glitters in here, but that gets buffed away and you just end up with this beautiful sheen. I absolutely love it. As for this tone, I think this tone works really beautifully for at least my skin tone. It's very difficult for me to speak to other skin tones, but this works beautifully on my skin tone. At first, I thought maybe it was going to be a little bit too cool because of the lavender and the turquoise pearls in there, but they have these larger kind of like peach colored pearls, and that just warms it up enough. Not so much that it's like a pigmented blush almost, but enough that I don't feel like it looks too white or cool on my skin. So really love this. And then, oh, the highlight pen. Wow, that was really something else. That was a very bright highlight. And like I mentioned when I applied it, it does have a little bit of a setting down factor. So I would do one cheek at a time. I laid it down with like a flat brush, this Tina Earnshaw brush. That is a very kind of like strong application. I think next time I'm going to use something that's a little bit fluffier so I can kind of like dab it on and buff it in versus just laying it down, which these flat paddle brushes do. So really impressed. I really like Guerlain highlighters. So far, they're really, really knocking it out of the park in terms of highlighters. And that's it. So I hope you found this video helpful. Please let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe down below if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video.